Welcome to our weekly Mitzvah Shabbos program. Today is the week of Kinus HaShluchim, the Rebbe Shluchim. So I want to share with you a letter from years ago that the Rebbe writes in one of the letters. What is the purpose of a Kinus HaShluchim? Ish esreyehu yazoivu, the Rebbe writes. When Shluchim get together and they give advice to each other and they give brachas to each other, that's the purpose of a kinus. Kinus is not the way some people think. They come, they have a briefcase and they come and they enjoy themselves. It's a time to take back and advise what they heard on the kinus and brachas. And from the chayas that they get, the Rebbe says, they bring it into the charoin av shalaylam. I guess then it was the kinus. Then was Pashatilus of Vayetze. The Vayetze Yaakov mi Be'er Shova Vayelech Chorono. He goes into the charoin av, knowing to strengthen, to give brachas, and he can overcome, and he has atzlocha. At the same letter, the Rebbe writes, and this is to Kinus HaShluchim, that the Rebbe says that every Yid is a shliach. The Eibeshter is a mishaleach. The Eibeshter sends down a neshama, a Yid from the high place, into a goof, into a body, in the Olam Hazeh, Hagashmi ve'achumri, to elevate from Me'igra Romo, Lebira Amikto, to elevate the Gashmiyas and Yerida Tzorech Aliyah. The descent in order to ascend. To make a Dira Lo Yizborech B'tachtoinim. This is the purpose of our shlich. This is why God sent us in this world. To make a Dira Lo Yizborech B'tachtoinim. So, be'emes, everybody is shluchim. And as a matter of fact, I just want to mention that the Rebbe said, and he said it a few times, that soon as a Yid walks out of the Yechidus room, he's a shliach. If we do the Rebbe's inyonim, we are all shluchim. And we're shluchim in this world to do the Torah mitzvahs, that's the purpose of shlichus. And a person should know that always have to be careful. Shliach shal adam k'maisai, as Rabbi Charikov mentioned many times. He was the head of the Kinus HaShluchim. So I want to repeat from years back. I mean, the young Shluchim now probably never even saw him. But I remember he was saying always, Shliach shal adam k'maisai. Just like by the Eibeshter Kaviyochel. We, Mahu Rachum, Afato Rachum. Just like the Eibeshter is our Rachmanis, we have to have Rachmanis. Whatever the Eibeshter we are. And this is our shlichus. The same thing also. If a shliach is not shliach shalodom k'moisei from the Rebbe, he has to be like the Rebbe. If he goes out a little bit different, then it's moyel b'shlichusei. Rabbi Charikov said. Now I want to mention a very important answer from the Rebbe B'negei Shluchim. And this answer, I know that somebody who asked Rabbi Korf, Rabbi Vremel Korf, all of Hasholem, he asked, and Rabbi Korf answered exactly what the Rebbe answered. And this is a letter that somebody asked the Rebbe, and the Rebbe answered about shlichus. A Chabadnik asked the Rebbe, what makes, that's the question, a shliach to be called a shliach? What's the difference between a person, a chosid, that does the Rebbe's Mivtzoyim, but he has a job. He also works, he has to make a living, which is no problem. He has to make a parnasa. But he's involved. He makes a parnasa, but his inyan is Mivtzoyim, shlichas, doing with other people. But he's not called a shliach. What's the difference between this person? Why isn't he called a shliach? And a shliach that lives somewhere else is called a shliach. This is what he writes to the Rebbe. He says, and maybe he's not called a shliach. He's asking. I guess this is. So the Rebbe answers like this. Everything is written. To be called a shliach, you have to be devoted all the time. As Rabbi Chalikov mentioned in a letter, you are a shliach 24 hours a day. You are a shliach. You can't do two things. To be called a shliach is you have to be shlichus. If you have a job, or if you have whatever job, I don't know, a job like, for example, real estate or hashgacha, whatever it is, that's taking away from your shlichus. That's not, in other words, that's what it comes out. And that's what Rabbi Korf mentioned to this person. Also he says, because a shliach means he is a shliach all the time. He eats like a shliach. He sleeps like a shliach. He walks like a shliach. Every 24 hours a day. You cannot be mekarev, the Rebbe says, all people if he's involved in a job. That's what he writes here. So a emes shliach means he does shlichas. This is what he's sent for, and this is what he's supposed to do. The other person, he does good, and he has a job, and the Rebbe should help him to be matzliach. No problem. But to be called a shliach, you have to be always busy with the union for shlichus. Then the Rebbe goes into Yisachar and Zvulun. You can't be Yisachar and Zvulun. You have to be or you're Yisachar or you're Zvulun. Yisachar has one job and Zvulun has another job. But if you become as Zvulun, I think the Rebbe once spoke about it by a Sicha. I think it was Sicha B'Sasheva, by Yisachar and Zvulun. So this is the answer that the Rebbe says. Like for example, 24 hours a day. What's your pshat? Rabbi Chalikov once mentioned, and I mentioned it a few times in my program. Rabbi Chalikov told me this once. It says, Kabed esovicha v'simecha. Doesn't only mean that a child should honor his parents. Kabed, he says, Kabed esovicha v'simecha. Honor the father that is within you. V'simecha, honor the mother that is within you. If you're a father or a mother, honor father. The Eibishter made you a father. Honor that. You're a father when you go to sleep. You're a father when you wake up. You're a father when you go to shul. You're a father when you go outside. You're a father when you go driving. Or a mother. You're a mother when you feed your child. You're a mother when you go shopping. You are mother. And when the child will see this, then leman yarichun yomecha. Then there's no problem. You won't have any problem from children. Because they see that the parents are dugma chaya. And the same thing also with a shliach. If a shliach is a shliach, if he's 24 hours, he eats like a shliach, and he sleeps like a shliach, his whole mitzias, his shliachas, then that's called a real shliach. This is from letters from years ago. And of course, Divrei Tzadikim, Kal Yomim La'ad. And as Rabbi Chanuka once mentioned, which he was the head of the Shluchim, he says, there is a tofel and there's an ikar. There is a priority and a secondary. When a person goes on a shlichus, I'm just repeating what Rabbi Chanuka mentioned. When a shlich goes, he has to know what is the ikar. As I mentioned, Matoivu Oyalecha Yankev Mishkenesecha Yisrael. Oyel is a tent. Oyel is temporary. Mishkenesecha, dwelling place, is permanent. By Oyel it says Yaakov. By Mishkenesecha it says Yisrael. Oyel, Yaakov is a heel. That's the lower part of a Jew. A Jew is called Yaakov. We all come from Yaakov. But that's our lower. Mishkenesecha Yisrael. That's permanent. Meaning when a shliach goes, he shouldn't get busy. He has to have oyalecha. He has to have temporary inyanim. He has to have a desk. He has to have a car. He has to have a Chabad house. He has to have this. Fine. And if he doesn't, depends what's in the Chabad house. So oyalecha, that's Yaakov. These are oyalecha, a car, and this, and all these things are gashmiyas. That's the lower part. The Iker is Mishkenesecha Yisrael. That's the Iker. How many people did he put on film this year? How many people did he make from this year? How many women light candles this year? All these things, that's Mishkenesecha Yisrael. So this is what I'm repeating of the things that Rabbi Chadukov spoke, because he was the head of the Kinus HaShluchim. Now, since today is the weekend of Kinus HaShluchim, I want to mention something that over here, some guidelines that Rabbi Chadukov wrote. He wrote like this. Rabbi Chadukov wrote, he says, this was years ago, and this comes from the Rebbe. He wanted then, I don't know why it didn't happen. Here, I have the letter right here. Rabbi Chadukov. He wanted, and it comes from the Rebbe, that all Rabbonim throughout the world, Chabad, and all Shluchim should write speeches down and make a book from their speeches, and give it into the Rebbe. It's a made in the Kazakh. To make Pashta book, can you imagine? I just found this letter in the archives of my father-in-law, that this is to make a book. Every shliach or every rov, and they did start years ago, and he thanks Rabbi Schusterman, there is to Alav Sholem from Chicago. He did start writing that. This was years ago. A book of the speeches. So first of all, people later on can see things, they can learn, especially a shliach from every city or rov. The members are going to always look at it to have a thing to go out from shluchim, from Kinus HaShluchim Poshet, to write down and print a book. And the Rebbe wanted to see it. This happened. I don't know why I don't know, but I don't know if it's happening or not. I don't know. And another thing here about the activities, which I'm not going to do this now, maybe do another time, about if there's any disagreement in the city of Shluchim, Deborah writes what should be done, but I don't want to mention it now. Since today is the Kinus HaShluchim, so the Rebbe should help, we should all have Hatzloche, everybody should have Hatzloche, the Shluchim of course, and all Yidden HaShluchim, and we should be Zoiche to the Bias Mashiach Tzidkenu, this is the goal of the entire Shlichas, B'mheira v'yomeinu amen. The mitzvah of next week will continue our weekly program. Thank you.